What is up, you guys? It is your boy, Brandon Biggis here, and welcome to another video. And today's video, we're going to be talking about Inside Out 2. Um, Inside Out 2, that's a movie. Alright? And when I say that's a movie, you're like, wait, is it good? Is it bad? Like, can I hear an opinion before I go watch this movie in the movie theaters? Well, I'll wait on that. Because before we get into today's video, make sure you like and subscribe. It is free and you can always change your mind later. Watch you guys dislike. Yeah, guys. I'm in a pretty good mood right now. So, yeah, I'm very happy. But anyway, for real though, let's get into the video. So, Inside Out 2, I don't know how I feel about this movie. This movie really was a literal roller coaster. But before we talk about the second one, we might as well talk about the first one. The first one, not gonna lie, after watching it again and comparing it to the second one, in my opinion, I think is a lot better. In my personal opinion, I think it's better. The first one was kind of weird. Like, I like the world building. I just didn't like Joy as a character. It's just like it took like until like the final 20 minutes of the movie. It's like, oh, I forgot. I should really think that Joy is or not Joy. Sadness is an actual person that actually has feelings, and it's important to Riley, and Riley needs sadness and anger and disgust and fear. It's like you kind of get that point there, and it's like, huh? Like, it's just so messed up how they do this. Like, and also the ending of the movie, it is super duper weird. Like, it's like it like took one emotional scene and it's like, oh, Joey cares about sadness now. It's just like, what? Okay, that's weird. Like, the problem with that is it's just like it, and it's just like the movie is kind of just short on the plots and stuff. Well, the second one, I think it feels a little more fresh, in my opinion. It does. Well, maybe I'll talk about that a little bit later, obviously. But the first one just like was basically like, okay, so we're in. This is the problem I used to have with the second one. It's kind of a little bit familiar to the first one, except different, obviously. Thank goodness. But the first one was basically about for Joy to appreciate sadness as an emotion, which is kind of weird because, like, I mean, like, I can understand, like, making Riley happy is what really is important. Like, I mean, I wish I could be more happy sometimes, but unfortunately I'm not. But, like, you kind of just have to deal with that. And it also introduced, you know, the emotions of like multiple emotions like happiness and sad at the end, which I think was kind of cool, and I liked that idea. It just sucks that they didn't do anything else about that in the movie. Like, it's shown every now and then, but like that's about it. It's like, wait, what? Like, I'm sorry, but they needed added a little bit more of that in the second movie. It's kind of like Madden, honestly. It's like, hey, look, there's this new concept that we're gonna throw out of the window because we're not gonna use that ever again. It's like it's like a little bit in the second movie that they kind of forgot that you can use multiple emotions. That's the problem. Is like, obviously they're shown, obviously, but like not as like they're not seen like what would happen during that moment. But again, that's my personal humble opinion. So yeah, the first one I did really like it. Like, again, I love the world building and it's really really unique. Like, I will admit, Inside Out series just in general has to be one of the best world built. Well, not maybe the best, but one of the most unique world buildings ever. which is really saying something because like there's been world builds like Elemental, the dinosaurs, like there's so many, but emotions has been something that I feel like this world of movies just really really needed, and I'm glad that it exists just on its own. So yeah, the movie, the first one, I honestly kind of have to give a 6, 7 out of 10. I still don't think it's as good as a lot of people say that it is, but in my humble opinion, I think it's a very, very decent movie, which I think a lot of people can enjoy, especially like me. And that's saying something because I have anger problems myself. So that's why the second movie really, really connected with me. So the second movie, by the way, spoilers. So if you do not want to watch it, I recommend probably going to like maybe the end of the minute, maybe and a half, maybe at the end of that point in the video, because that's where I'm probably gonna talk about the ranking and maybe a little spoilers afterwards, but you never know. But anyways, now are you gone? Okay, you're gone. So the second movie is basically about Riley going through her first age as a teenager and officially have graduated middle school. Now heading into high school, when she noticed that her two new friends that she made over time are going to different high schools. Now she's getting a little nervous for the factor that she is not gonna have her friends. She's nervous of being alone, and then we meet this Red Hawk crew that she really hopes to impress and be friends with. And that's where all the new emotions come in, like envy, Vu, I think. I don't remember her name, his name. Boredom, I would just say boredom, because he's essentially kind of like that, and sarcasm, I guess, sorta. Um, and an embarrassment, and the protagonist, or I should say, the antagonist, is anxiety. So, and then we obviously have the other five emotions: joy, anger, fear, disgust, and sadness. And it's quite interesting to say the least that there are a lot of theories right now in this movie. Like, for example, what is nostalgia? Like, what is this emotion and what is it going to do in the future? Well, will there be an Inside Out 3? Which I think there's probably going to be. What happened during the end when Joy smiled when she was looking at something? Was it a goofy photo of her friends? Was it her making it to the varsity team? Was it something completely else? You do not know. This is why I have a good feeling it most likely will build up to the third movie, where this might be where like she's like a sophomore or a junior, having stress and anxiety about leaving her parents. Like, I like that. It's an interesting concept, and I'm honestly kind of wishing that they make this movie because of how good the second one went. Now, the second one, to be really honest with you, I kind of wasn't looking forward to this. I just didn't like the trailer. I'm like, oh, great. It looks like it's going to be a repeat of the first movie. Yay. Again, obviously, back then I didn't really like the movie. When I rewatched it, I'm like, okay, this movie is good. But I still did not like the premise of this movie. I was a little concerned, and I don't really think that this movie was going to do really well, in my personal opinion. And then when the movie came out, the ratings went through the roof. I think it got like 92 Rotten Tomatoes. I think it got that, and like the like literally, I think it's probably rated the best movie in 2024, and that's saying something because we're halfway through the year, so that's kind of saying something. So yeah, Inside Out 2 was really critically a very very good movie, and I'm like, okay, this is interesting, and I got to be honest, I do think it deserves the credit that it does. Maybe I don't think it really quite does deserve to being up there as one of the best 3D animated movies of all time. I don't think that's true, but it's still a very good movie. Like I said, this movie has so many interesting plot points that it's insane. Let's start out with the issues. I always like to get the issues out of the way, especially in good movies like this. So the couple of, well, obviously I listed one of the issues already. Then there is another issue. Joy have to realize something again. It's kind of just a little weird. I mean, I'm glad that obviously, like, anger, I feel like disgust and fear, they learned something through this movie, which is something they kind of didn't with the last one. Because, like, there kind of just was there. But the second movie, like, they actually kind of look for some sort of progression, which was really nice. Joy, I'm sorry to say the least, I'm really, really a little pissed off of how the factor they used Joy. Joy just felt like the first movie again. Obviously, then you also got to start with the new emotions, her trying to adjust to them, and then you realize, oh, well, these all new emotions are bad. And then you start to notice, well, embarrassment's not that bad, envy starts to not be that bad, and the boredom isn't also ending up being that bad. And you slowly, slowly, slowly start to realize anxiety is the issue. And it's like, okay. And honestly, at first, when they got out, I thought she was gonna get thrown out of there. I mean, we didn't really see, again, from the first movie, which again, this is a little bit more, this makes more of an issue for the first movie of the world building. And it just like starts to make it a little more interesting, you know? It makes things more interesting. With anxiety basically being like I said, the antagonist of the movie. Even though she doesn't have any bad attempts at all, she just doesn't know that she's doing the wrong thing. She just doesn't know that. That's the thing. So, but the problem with Joy is Joy realizing that Riley is supposed to be herself and you can't control her is something that I kind of felt like she knew in the first movie a little bit. So the fact you're kind of adding this set is a little weird. Obviously, I think it's understandable of like, hey, you can't control this person. Let this person be themselves. And that's actually kind of what I thought in the movie theaters, which I was watching right next to my brother, funny enough, where I was kind of like having like these like silent moments. My brother is like, shut up. Shut up. And I'm like, okay. And it honestly almost got me to, like again, it kind of did ruin my a little bit of the movie experience, which I don't really want to talk about that because again, it's not on the topic about the movie. So that's number one. And number two, I think I want to make a video about today in general. So that's why I'm going to leave it there. So yeah. So then so basically the movie was and again, the movie was a bit fast paced. I mean, like, for example, like I say it's a bit. Like, for example, the emotions coming in, it kind of just like all of a sudden it just happened. I mean, I get it, I understand. Like, puberty just literally all of a sudden happens. I understand that. But the emotions just all coming in right away was not really cool. And they got kicked out of the headquarters extremely fast. I think it was like 20 minutes of the movie. This movie, at first, like when I saw the first trailer, I thought it was going to be more of them like trying to keep Riley together during her teenage years. That's what I thought they were going to do at first. But no. And that's where my other problem kind of comes in. It kind of feels a little bit too familiar. Obviously, there's some different elements. Don't get me wrong, obviously. But it just kind of felt like the first movie. Except, obviously, it's just anger, disgust, and fear there instead of sadness. Who ends up actually knowing where they're going. So there goes your map. But, like, that's the problem with this movie. Is like, it kind of feels a little too familiar with the first one. And that's just like the one reason why the hype is a little bit too much. If you can completely ignore the fact that this movie feels a little too familiar to the first one, Yes, I think it deserves the credit that it does. It's just I don't think it should. If you really, really closely watch the first and the second movie, like literally really close to each other, you're really gonna realize like, wow, this movie is kind of familiar. And it's just like that's the issue. Outside of that, again, I love this movie. I love that they actually used anger, fear, and disgust and not make them look like the bad guy because they kind of what they look like in the first movie. Because literally in the first movie, it looks like oh they're just their emotion, and only joy can feel some different emotion, and sadness barely felt any other emotions. So that's why I kind of like the second one a little bit more. It's because they use them, but not make them all just like completely their emotion. They use different emotions to help them out as actual characters and not just a person who just controls somebody. That's one thing I'm really, really happy about this movie is that they made them not just angry during basically 99% of the movie. They didn't, and I'm super happy for that. Well, obviously, it wouldn't be. Actually, it probably wouldn't even be 99% because obviously this movie was only like 96 minutes long, and you're including the credits. So, what else I have to say? So, I like the fact that that is in there. I also like the fact that they like question a little bit of anxiety's decisions, which like prove to them like, hey, they're not the villain here. It's anxiety who's kind of the villain. And even then, like I said before, she's not really a villain. She's just a. It's basically, and I hate to say this because, golly, this movie does not deserve this much credit. Strange World's kind of villain. Like, she's causing this planet to just die off because she thinks she's doing the right thing. But she isn't. She's destroying her own, well, whale, literally. So it's like very interesting, you know? It's really cool that I like the fact that they did what from the strange world, but approved upon it heading into this movie. I liked it. I honestly like it. It also just proves to you how piece of crap Disney has been while you got freaking Pixar out here throwing masterpieces in every corner. Like again, I really like Elemental, and this kind of wants me to go back to watching the 2010s and afterwards because I'm starting to feel like I'm a little bit more. Oh, I care about the life lessons and stuff like that because obviously I'm not watching Brave and the Good Dinosaur because I just refuse to watch those movies. So I kind of want to watch like Cars 2, Monsters Inc. Not Monsters Inc. Monsters University. What were other movies that came out during that time? Obviously, I watched Inside Out, so that one doesn't matter. Coco, Toy Story 4, and I think I just gotta watch Toy Story 3 again, which I don't think I really want to watch that one again, just because I've watched it too much. Soul, and I guess Onward as well, and then you get to Luca, and I think that's gonna be it after Luca. Because I don't because I feel like it's pretty recent for me since I watched Turning Red. Lightyear, I don't think I'm ever gonna change my mind. I think it's just gonna get worser by the time I keep watching it. And Elemental is also recent, so that's why therefore I'm not watching any movies after Luca because I haven't really watched that movie since it came out. So, touche. But Inside Out 2 was a very, very, very good movie, and I think it's great. Again, expanding on the world building. That's really, really nice. And expanding on joy. It's really, really nice. Like, again, it's just so, so good. It is so insane. And again, I also gotta give props to anxiety. I love that anxiety is like this, like, sometimes it doesn't feel like she's a person. Sometimes, sometimes it feels like she's wanting to control Riley, which again, that's the point of this movie, which is a little stupid in my opinion. But anyway, and it controls her. But this movie kind of reminded me of me, which is why I really, really like this movie because it reminded me of me being hard on myself. It like said this multiple times. I'm selfish. Sometimes I feel selfish. And I think everybody does. So go figure. Sometimes I feel like I'm a kind person, but sometimes maybe people aren't thinking of that. Like, I love the fact that this movie is saying that you can't, it says you can't be more than, you, you can't be just one thing. You can be multiple things. Like, for example, you can be selfish, you could be kind, you can be, etc., etc., And that's why I really, really like this movie. And honestly, for a sec, I thought Joy was gonna die. I know this is a little weird because obviously we probably I kind of knew that no way Joy would die or anything. But seriously, I thought she was going to die. But no, it was Riley and her brain, which this movie, in my opinion, made it like more like Riley isn't just a person who gets controlled all over the place. That's one thing I also liked about the second movie, is that Riley felt more of a character in this movie than she did in the first movie. In the first movie, it felt more, oh, we gotta, blah blah blah. We gotta do this. You gotta do this. Um, you know, like that's what I liked about this movie. This movie really made Riley feel more of a character, which was an issue with the first movie. Like I said, well, actually, I didn't say that. I didn't like the fact that she didn't felt like a character. She felt more of just a person who got controlled around. But the second movie, she was a bit hesitant to do any of these stuff. And that's where you kind of get to the point where, I think it was like her self thought, I think, where a piece of her thought in her brain, which used to be there, she got taken out, still's like, wait a minute, this is not right. But then the emotions, like, use most of their force to get her back, which again, it was a bit of an issue. But I'm okay with it, obviously. It shows to you at least, though, like how things are and stuff. This movie did feel a little embarrassing to watch sometimes, which I think is honestly okay, because again, this is a classic teenage movie. You're going to feel a little weird watching this movie, so I don't blame you. So yeah, I love, and also this movie, in my opinion, was very, very funny as well. This is a pretty funny movie, and it's kind of like the first one, honestly, with it being funny. But I want to go back to the point, the life lessons. Don't control. It's like essentially don't control what is you, a part of you. So it's more, in my opinion, this movie felt more of an adult life lesson when you actually have had kids than you actually getting it as a kid. This is why I think this movie is a little bit more considered to like teenagers who are about to go to high school, or even teenagers, or let's say for example you're college and you have kids. Like, I feel like it's more direct, more towards a more mature audience, and that's what makes this movie, in my opinion, really interesting. Like, I don't know how kids would feel about this movie, because in my opinion, like I mean, I would love the colors. Obviously, the colors are gorgeous, by the way, but I don't know how I would feel if I was more young and immature. I don't know how I would feel about this movie. And I love the fact that this movie came out right when I was about to be going to high school. It's showing, like, hey, you need to actually act a little more mature, because this is what happens. And this is why I'm so happy for myself that I felt more mature than I would be in an 8th grade. That's what I'm happy about, is I feel much more mature than everybody else. So stuff like that won't ever happen to me, where I get yelled by a coach about being immature, Because you really can't be immature in high school. You just can't. I'm sorry, but this is important to you. Grades matter. Like, grades, being on the field, it's very important, because otherwise, you're not going to get a high school diploma, and you're probably going to spend the rest of your life either babysitting people or working at Culver's or McDonald's or something like that. I don't know. But again, you get the point. The point is, this is a very important movie, in my personal opinion, to watch if you're heading into high school or an 8th grader. Heck, even a 7th grader. I think 7th graders and plus should really be watching this movie. So basically, 13 and above. You could essentially say that. This movie is one of the greatest movies I have ever watched. But again, just the one issue can't really make me say that this is a great movie. Look, I love this movie. I love a lot of things about this movie, especially the ending and how it's such a big cliffhanger. That's what I really like about this movie. Like, it's kind of what the first movie of the Lego movie kind of did. I think this movie, in my personal opinion, is a lot better than the first one. But the first one kind of also had a little bit more of an interesting... Like, there were some things that the first movie did that the second movies failed to improve upon. Like, I think the world building more in the first one was really more fun than the second one. Like, brainstorming is a storm. Who couldn't guess that one? Like, you kind of get the point. And sarcasm is you being sarcasm when you don't want to. You kind of get the point. So, yeah. This movie, though, in my opinion, went from, probably going to like a 4 out of 10 to an 8 out of 10. And by the way, did I forget to mention that the first one is a 6 out of 10? This movie almost kind of reminds me of Puss in Boots: The Last Wish. Do I think it's as good as it's supposed to be? Maybe not. But this movie did what the first movie did, but it proved upon it in so many ways, which is why I think the second movie is one of the most interesting movies and why I'm so happy to watch it. And also the ending, I think, is awesome. I think the ending is, like, really, really, really nice. Where it shows you where anxiety is, like, really, like, at her point because she thought that she was doing the right thing. But no, she realizes quickly, like, oh, crap. I did a terrible mistake. Which, again, that's a little bit more into the first movie. But, again, I'll talk about that a little bit. Well, I guess I might as well talk about it now. It's kind of the same thing with anger, fear, and disgust, them wanting to run away, essentially. So they realize that, and while she's in the penalty box, which, by the way, I love the fact that this is in the penalty box, because the penalty box actually has, like, a connection to the movie. It's like a lot of things have a connection to the movie, and that's why I really like it. It's like they don't forget, like, the pouch that they broke out. It's like they didn't forget about the penalty box. They didn't forget all of these bad things that they just put all the way to the back of the head, literally. So that's what makes this movie so awesome and great and amazing. Is that they made a movie and improved upon it in so many ways. And I honestly can't wait, and this is something I would have not said at all with the first one, is I can't wait to see the third installment of this movie. I have high expectations, but I think with how good they did it with the second movie, I would imagine that the third movie can be maybe even better than the second one. But what do you guys think now in the comments below? Again, I really do think, in my opinion, this is one of the best movies of all time. And I just really can't say, like, I can't say, like, anything that makes this movie kind of, like, look a little bad, except that one thing. But, like, I just can't. I really can't think anything else that this movie can't improve upon. I mean, obviously there's some things, but again, that's okay. I think it can be improved upon at the end of the day. But this movie, in my opinion, deserves the 8 out of 10 title. Or maybe a 7.8. Again, there's, like, some things with this movie that just can't make it that great as I hoped it could be. But does everything have to be great? No! No, it doesn't. Everything is not perfect. And this is what the first and the second movie shown. You don't have to be perfect. You just don't. And that's what's amazing about this movie. And I really, really do like it. But anyway, hope you guys enjoy. Peace.